any time of pandemic, the government may expand its control over individuals to serve the greater good. But what about the danger to civil liberties and finding a balance? Well, that debate is playing out in New York, where the city's far-left mayor is thinking about locking the entire city down. But so far, the governor says not on his watch.
No city in the state can quarantine itself without state approval. And I have no interest whatsoever and no plan whatsoever to quarantine any city.
All right, let's debate the delicate balancing act with former Deputy Assistant Attorney General John Yoo and Seattle radio talk show host Jason Rantz. Welcome back to both of you. Good to see you.
Thanks, Shannon.
I thought it was interesting. I was looking around today for information about quarantines and things from the past, and I stumbled upon this document from the ACLU that they put together in 2008 called Pandemic Preparedness. They say this: too often, fears aroused by disease and epidemics have justified abuses of state power. Highly discriminatory and forcible vaccination and quarantine measures adopted in response to outbreaks of the plague and smallpox over the past century have consistently accelerated rather than slowed the spread of disease, while fomenting public distrust and, in some cases, riots. John, that's quite a mouthful.
Well, this is, we could look at history, and yes, we could learn from events in the past, but those are times when people didn't know about germ theory, for example. I think what you have before you now is a much better way to learn, which is to look at what other countries have done. For example, Dr. Oz just a little while ago said South Korea has done a good job. China has now turned the corner on it, where we can also learn from places like Italy, where policies seem to have failed. We don't have to go back and look 100 years or 50 years at panics and alarm. We can look at the evidence before us. And I think there are certain policies which seem to be working, but we can go too far. I'm living here in San Francisco in the Berkeley area, where we seem to be under a total lockdown of almost all social activity. That might be going too far, but I don't think it's a violation of constitutional rights. I think instead we're trying to reach the right balance between stopping the spread of a disease, but also not totally putting the economy into a seizure so that people who need money, who need to work, aren't able to.
Yeah, the Washington Post, under this headline, "The government can quarantine you for coronavirus, and there's almost nothing you can do about it," says this: regulations set forth by the CDC give health officials broad authority to quarantine or isolate anyone, quote, reasonably believed to have been exposed to a range of highly infectious diseases. The list includes flus that can cause a pandemic. Now, Jason, I know you're out there on the West Coast, too, where you've got a big explosion of this, and there are some measures in place. How's it playing out there?
So right now it's playing out in the way that you expect it to. Lots of people are nervous. Lots of people are on the brink of panic. We heard earlier today that the schools may stay closed into the fall. We constantly are hearing rumors about a San Francisco-style policy that will keep people indoors. You walk around, drive around the city of Seattle, it's unrecognizable. There are not that many people out on the roads. There are certainly not people in businesses, and a lot of them have had to shut down, and there's a fear that they're not going to open up again. And so not only are we dealing with the health concerns and the panic about a potentially deadly virus, depending on the demographic that gets it, but you're also now worried about paying rent, paying just common bills, and going about your normal life. And I think at some point, they're going to intersect in a way that needs to be managed. And I'm wondering if we're prepared for that.
I want to play something by the Surgeon General today. Here's his take on this.
We are not an authoritarian nation, so we have to be careful when we say, let's do what China did, let's do what South Korea did. A lot of our public health authority lies in the state and local level.
You know, and John, I've been hearing this debate back and forth, people saying, like, look, the states are doing everything because the feds aren't managing it well. And the other hand, they're saying, listen, you got to watch this Trump administration. They have all these authoritarian tendencies, and you can't let them start, you know, cracking things down from on high from the feds. I mean, John, where do people find that balance?
Well, first, it's ironic that people are attacking Trump now for not being activist enough, when just 2 months ago, people were attacking Trump, trying to remove him from office because they were worried he was exercising too much presidential power. So it's a good point that you're making, Shannon, because there is a difference between what the federal government can do and what the state government can do. The federal government can control the borders. It can provide a lot of money. It can provide a lot of supplies. But the real power of government here to handle an epidemic like this, it's not localized in one place, it's spreading out throughout the country, is in the state governments. That's the way our Constitution was designed. And federal law still gives the frontline responsibility to governors, mayors, county executives, because they're the ones who control the resources and the personnel that can really enforce things like travel restrictions, that can shut down businesses. The federal government doesn't have the people or the resources to do anything like that. So in a weird way, the success for the president, for Trump, in dealing with this epidemic is really going to lie in the hands of people like Gavin Newsom or Andrew Cuomo.
Yeah, which interestingly enough, they both have had praise for him over the last few days, and they're arch enemies otherwise. Okay, speaking of governors, Governor Northam, Virginia, tweets this: I just issued an emergency order with VDH commissioner to enforce Virginia's statewide ban of more than 10 patrons in restaurants, theaters, and fitness centers. Please use common sense. If you were considering ignoring this limit, don't. I mean, Jason, at what point do you have any concerns about authorities using whatever resources they have at this point, because they're being channeled in a lot of important areas, but to crack down on people who don't go along with what is for now a voluntary, at least in where we are in here in Virginia, a voluntary suggestion?
So here's where I'm concerned. I'm concerned when people decide that they don't think this is serious enough to do the self-isolation. I fear that some people are going to put the governors or mayors in positions where their hands are tied, and they're going to start to move down the line of these kinds of massive quarantines. I've been talking to people on my radio show on both sides. On the left, I need to hear people stopping this nonsense politicking and going after Trump wherever they can and taking it out of context because they're downplaying the seriousness of this. On the right, I say the same thing, and I'm a conservative, but I'm talking to folks on my side saying, let's chill out a little bit about any type of criticism against the president. There are good faith criticisms that we can level, and stop with the conspiracies that all of a sudden the police are going to take over and we're going to have people with guns wandering around the streets keeping us in our homes. We're not going to that point. But if we don't take this seriously, if we don't follow the directives coming from public health officials, coming from this administration, and coming from our governors, I think we're going to force their hands. I know that folks like John are out there who are going to make sure that if there are any legitimate civil liberty disruptions, they're going to call this out. But right now, I'm more concerned about the guy that you played earlier going out on a beach and hanging out.
Yeah, we got to leave it there. Thank you both for weighing in. It's an important topic. We'll continue the discussion. Thank you.